My mother-in-law, Caroline, stands at the head of the dining room table like a judge delivering a sentence. She slides a glossy purchase offer across to my husband Brian, then points the pen at me like it's a weapon she's been saving. "This is a once-in-a-generation chance," she says, her voice sharp with certainty. $300 million. Don't be the woman who ruins it. I reach for the document, my fingers trembling slightly. The first page makes my throat tighten. There, in bold letters, seller, Caroline Whitmore, trustee. Trustee of what? Of my assets? Everyone around the table watches me. Caroline's brother Warren, Brian's cousin Paula, even Aunt Frances, who usually stays quiet during family meetings. They're all staring like I'm a problem that needs managing, a knot that needs untangling before the real business can happen. I look up at Caroline. Her pearl necklace catches the light from the chandelier. Her expression is pleasant, patient, like she's explaining something simple to a child. "I don't understand," I say carefully. "Trustee of which trust?" Caroline's smile doesn't waver, but something cold flashes in her eyes. "The family trust, sweetheart. The one that holds everything we've built." She says we, like I'm included, but her tone says otherwise. Caroline leans forward. "You're not an owner, sweetheart. You're just the spouse." I'm Nora. I'm 54 years old. I've spent 22 years building what we have, quietly, steadily, doing the kind of work nobody applauds until it's gone. I didn't marry into money. I married into a family that talks like they have money, that acts like old wealth runs through their veins, even when the bank account tells a different story. Caroline has never forgiven me for not being polished. She calls me practical the way other people might say diseased. Like it's something shameful. Something that needs to be hidden at dinner parties. When Brian and I got married, his father was still alive. He was kind to me, treated me like I mattered. But he died 12 years ago, and Caroline has ruled the family ever since. She makes decisions and announces them. She controls narratives, controls access, controls who gets to speak at family meetings. Brian sits beside her now, nodding along like my entire life is just a minor nuisance to work around. He won't meet my eyes. I look back at the document. My name appears nowhere on the first 3 pages, but on page 4, there's a signature line with my name typed underneath, Nora Whitmore, spouse. My voice comes out steady despite my racing heart. If I'm not an owner, why does this contract include a spousal signature line? The room goes quiet. Caroline turns my question into a performance. She laughs, light and tinkling, like I've said something adorably naive. Because lawyers like to be thorough, darling. They cover every possible angle, even the silly ones. She waves her hand dismissively. Sign so the adults can move forward. Brian squeezes my knee under the table. Hard. Not comfort, a warning. Stop talking. Stop questioning. Stop embarrassing us. I feel my face burn, but I keep my voice calm and level. I'm not signing anything I don't understand. Caroline's smile doesn't change, but her eyes do. They go flat, empty of warmth. Then you don't understand your place in this family. Warren clears his throat from across the table. Caroline, maybe we should. Warren, please. She cuts him off without even looking at him. The buyer's representative, a man in an expensive suit who's been sitting quietly at the far end of the table, speaks up. His voice is polite but firm. Ma'am, I apologize for interrupting, but we can't close without clear title to the assets. If there's any question about ownership or authority to sell, we need to resolve that before proceeding. Caroline's jaw tightens. Just for a second, I see irritation flash across her face. Then the pleasant mask returns. There's no question, she says smoothly. Just a spouse who needs education. I thought we were selling one property, maybe the warehouse Caroline's been complaining about for years, the one that needs a new roof. Then the asset list slides into view. My hands go numb as I read. Storage and logistics yard near Interstate 10. Mineral rights on family land in West Texas. Portfolio of 6 commercial warehouses. Private lending notes secured by residential property. Equipment leasing contracts. Things I recognize. Things I've managed the insurance for, paid the taxes on, handled the repairs for, dealt with the headaches over. Caroline's voice cuts through my thoughts. It's time to cash out. Convert these headaches into liquid assets we can actually enjoy. I keep reading. My eyes catch on one line that makes my stomach drop. The Brazos River Ranch, 847 acres, Palo Pinto County. My father's ranch. The land he bought 40 years ago. The place where I scattered his ashes 3 years back. This ranch, I say, pointing to the line. This was my father's property. Caroline doesn't even glance at the paper. It's been in the family trust for years, dear. Your father understood the benefits of proper estate planning. My father hated trusts, called them lawyer games. I was there when he made his will. I see my late father's ranch listed, something Caroline has no business touching. Caroline tells the room the story she loves, the one she's polished over years until it shines like truth. Everything is in the family trust, she explains to the buyer's representative, her voice warm with false modesty. My late husband and I established it years ago to protect the family. I'm simply the trustee, managing these assets for everyone's benefit. She makes it sound noble, self-sacrificing. I clear my throat. My father didn't leave his ranch to your trust. The words come out stronger than I intended. The room goes still. Brian cuts in fast, his voice tight with warning. Nora, stop. You'll embarrass yourself. Embarrass myself. By defending my father's legacy. By asking where his land went. Caroline's expression doesn't change, but I see her fingers tighten around her pen. Your father was a wonderful man, but he wasn't sophisticated about legal matters. Brian's father helped him with proper planning before he passed. It was a gift, really. I was his executor. I never saw. You were emotional, grieving. The men handled the complicated parts. Caroline's voice is syrup over steel. Now, we have a buyer willing to pay top dollar, and a closing scheduled. Let's not waste this opportunity with ancient history. Warren nods. Paula nods. Even Aunt Frances, who knew my father, stays silent. Caroline looks directly at me. The signing is scheduled for Friday, with or without your blessing. That night, Brian tells me I'm being paranoid. We're in our bedroom, the door closed. He's pacing, his hands running through his hair the way they do when his mother has given him instructions. The sale will set us free, he says. No more managing properties, no more tenant problems, no more stress. Mom will take care of us with the proceeds. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, still in my clothes from the meeting. Take care of us how? She's setting aside money for everyone, family distributions. We'll be comfortable. I want to see the ownership documents. His pacing stops. What? The trust documents, the deeds. I want to see what's actually in this trust. Brian's face hardens. You don't need to see everything. That's not how this works. I'm being asked to sign away my father's ranch. I need to understand. It's not your ranch. His voice rises, sharp and angry. That's the whole point. It belongs to the family trust. Mom has been managing it for years. You don't get to swoop in and act like you're in charge. The words hit like slaps. After 22 years of marriage, I'm not family. I'm an outsider, swooping in. He leaves the bedroom, slamming the door. I sit in the silence, my mind racing. Then I remember his desk in the study. The locked drawer he thinks I don't know about. I find the key where he's always hidden it, under the pencil tray. Inside is a sealed envelope labeled Power of Attorney. I open it with shaking fingers. It's a power of attorney, granting Caroline full authority to act on my behalf regarding all real property, business interests, and financial matters. The signature at the bottom is supposed to be mine. It's not mine. It's not even close. Someone practiced my signature, tried to copy the loops and slants. But they got the pressure wrong, the angle of my letters wrong. My real signature has a distinctive hook on the N. This one doesn't. My chest goes cold. Not with rage, with clarity. This is forgery. Legal, documented forgery sitting in my husband's desk. I don't scream. I don't confront Brian. I don't call Caroline. Instead, I pull out my phone and take photos. Multiple angles, clear shots showing the signature, the date, the notary seal. I photograph every page. Then I put it back exactly how I found it, tucking the envelope in the same position, making sure the drawer locks the same way. I walk to the bathroom and wash my hands. Scrub them hard, like I've touched something rotten. The notarization date is from October 15th. A week I was in Ohio at my cousin's funeral. A week Caroline knew I was gone. I don't threaten anyone. I don't make accusations at breakfast or send angry texts. Instead, I call a local attorney. Her name is Catherine Brennan, recommended by my bank manager years ago when I asked about estate planning. She's in her early 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that don't miss anything. I sit in her office the next morning, tell her everything. Show her the photos on my phone. She studies them carefully, zooming in on the signature, the notary seal, the date. Do not tip them off, she says finally. Her voice is calm but firm. We're going to request records the right way. Formal, legal, proper channels. If they know you're questioning this, they'll start hiding things. My hands are shaking in my lap. They're trying to sell my father's ranch. Catherine looks up from my phone. Your father's ranch, not the family trust's ranch? My father hated trusts. He left everything to me in his will. I was there when he signed it. She nods slowly. Then we have work to do. She explains the process. Document requests, property records searches, title examinations. Everything quiet, everything professional. We move tonight, she says. I'll start pulling county records immediately. You go home and act normal. Don't let them know anything has changed. She tells me to meet her first thing in the morning with every tax bill I can find. At my kitchen table at 6 in the morning, I spread years of paperwork across the surface. Tax bills for the ranch, insurance policies, maintenance invoices, fence repair receipts. Everything I've saved because I'm the kind of person who saves everything. Catherine arrives at 7 with coffee and a legal pad. She starts sorting through the documents, making notes, creating stacks. The taxes on the ranch, she says, holding up a bill from last year. They were paid from an account in your name. I nod. I've always paid them. Caroline said it was easier that way since I handled the bookkeeping. And this insurance policy? She holds up another document. It lists you as the decision maker, the contact person, the one with authority to file claims. Caroline said I was managing it for the trust. Catherine sets down her coffee. Her expression is serious. Nora, you've been treated like a servant, but according to these documents, you've been acting like an owner. She explains what we need next. Deeds from the county recorder's office, trust schedules if they exist, corporate filings for the holding companies. If Caroline is claiming trusteeship, there's a trust document somewhere, Catherine says, and it may not be the one you think exists. Caroline invites me to lunch 2 days later. Her text is sweet, casual. Just us girls, my treat. We meet at her favorite restaurant, the one with white tablecloths and expensive wine. She's already seated when I arrive, looking elegant in a cream blazer. She orders for both of us without asking what I want. I've been thinking, she says, reaching across to pat my hand. I adore you, Nora. You know that, right? You're like a daughter to me. I nod, staying quiet. This sale is such a blessing for our family. Finally, we can stop worrying about maintenance and tenants and all those headaches. She sips her wine. You'll be free to enjoy life instead of drowning in paperwork. I don't mind the paperwork. Her smile tightens slightly. Of course you don't. You're so wonderfully practical, but Brian deserves better than watching his wife work herself to exhaustion. The knife slides in smooth, wrapped in concern. Caroline, I just want to understand the ownership structure. If you fight this, Brian will resent you forever. Her voice is still sweet, but there's steel underneath. He's finally excited about something. Don't be the person who takes that away from him. I meet her eyes. I'm not fighting the sale, I'm fighting being erased. Her smile drops. The pleasant mask cracks. She leans close across the table. You're not smart enough for this, sweetheart? She hisses. Sign Friday, or I'll make sure you leave this family with nothing. Catherine pulls property records while I sit in her office, my leg bouncing with nervous energy. She works methodically, searching county databases, cross-referencing addresses, checking corporate filings. Finally, she sits back in her chair. Nora, the warehouses aren't owned by Caroline's trust. My heart stops. What? They're owned by a holding company, Northridge Holdings LLC, formed in 2009. She turns her computer screen toward me. Look at the managing member. I read the name on the screen. Nora Elizabeth Whitmore. Me. I stare at it like it's written in a language I don't understand. That's impossible. I never. Did you ever sign a document during the 2009 crisis? Catherine asks gently. Something about handling operations or managing assets? My mind goes blank. Then slowly memory surfaces. 2009. The financial crisis. Brian's father was alive then but sick. The business was drowning. Banks were calling in loans. I was the only one keeping the lights on, paying vendors, negotiating with creditors, signing checks. Caroline had shoved papers at me one night. We need someone to handle operations while the men sort out the banking side. Just sign here. Standard management paperwork. I signed. Exhausted, desperate to help, trusting that family meant safety. I remember, I whisper. I signed something. Caroline said it was just to handle day-to-day operations. Catherine nods slowly. That something made you the managing member of the entity that owns half these assets. My attorney says, Nora, did you ever sign a document during the 2009 crisis? The memory hits like a wave I've been holding back for years. 2009. The world was falling apart. Banks were failing. Credit was frozen. Brian's father, William, was barely functional. Heart problems, stress, fear in his eyes every morning. Caroline was panicking but pretending not to. Warren was useless, hiding behind consultant work that produced nothing. I was the one making payroll. I was the one calling vendors to beg for extended payment terms. I was the one who knew which checks would clear and which wouldn't. One night, late, Caroline came to me with documents. Her face was tight, her voice urgent. We need someone to handle operations. Someone the banks will work with. Someone competent. She said competent, like it was a compliment, like I should be grateful. William can't do it. Warren won't. Brian doesn't have the patience. She pushed the papers toward me. You're good with forms. This just gives you authority to keep things running. I signed. Multiple pages, barely reading them, just trying to help keep the family afloat. Caroline always mocked me for being good with forms after that. Made it sound like I was some clerk, some paper pusher. Turns out that one form gave me control. Catherine says, if you're the managing member, Caroline can't sell these assets unless she's lying to the buyer. The buyer's team sends a formal request to Caroline. Please provide proof of authority to sell all listed assets. Caroline responds within hours. Confident. Certain. All assets held in family trust, documentation attached. Catherine sends her own letter. Professional, calm, devastating. There is a title issue regarding certain assets in the proposed transaction. We respectfully request that closing be paused pending resolution. Within 2 hours, my phone explodes. Caroline calls. I don't answer. She calls again. Then she leaves a voicemail, not crying, screaming. You traitor, you're sabotaging your own family. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By destroying a $300 million deal? Her voice is shaking with rage, raw, ugly rage I've never heard from her before. You will regret this, she hisses. I promise you that. I save the voicemail, forward it to Catherine. Brian comes home early from work. His face is pale, his tie loosened. He stands in the kitchen doorway, looking at me like I'm a stranger. His voice comes out quiet, almost confused. My mom says you're trying to steal from us. We sit at the kitchen table, the same table where we've eaten thousands of meals together. Brian's hands are clasped in front of him. He won't meet my eyes. Just tell me what you want, he says. Money? A bigger share? What will make you stop this? Stop what? Asking questions about who owns what? You know what I mean. His voice is tired. Mom has a buyer, a real buyer with real money. This is our chance. Our chance for what? He finally looks up. A new start. Freedom. Mom promised me a leadership role after the sale. Real authority, not just being her son. The truth drops between us like a stone. She promised you something, I say slowly. If you kept me compliant. He doesn't deny it. What exactly did she promise, Brian? Control. The word comes out barely above a whisper. She said if I supported her, backed her, made sure you cooperated, I'd get real control of the money, a real say in how it's managed. And all you had to do was make sure I signed. It's not like that. Then what is it like? He stands up, pacing. We'll be rich, Nora. Actually rich. Not just comfortable, not just getting by. We can travel, live somewhere nice, stop worrying. We were already safe, Brian. My voice is calm, steady. We had enough. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted me small. He laughs. Bitter and sharp. You're not the reason we have money. You're not the reason we have anything. You just maintained it. I tell him, then you won't mind if the truth is verified. The buyer's attorneys run their own title search. Independent. Thorough. Catherine gets a call from their lead counsel, a man named Stuart Preston. He sounds cautious. We've discovered some irregularities, he says. Catherine puts him on speaker so I can hear. Some of the assets aren't in the trust Ms. Whitmore claims to control. Some deeds don't match the representations in her offer package. Some authority documents appear to be incomplete or questionable. Stuart pauses. We need to schedule an emergency meeting. All parties. We can't proceed until this is resolved. Caroline's slam dunk sale starts wobbling. She didn't review ownership, she just assumed. Assumed the trust held everything. Assumed her authority was absolute. Assumed no one would check. The meeting is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Everyone required. Catherine prepares methodically binders of documents, property records, corporate filings, the forged power of attorney. Let them talk first, she advises. Let Caroline explain her version. Then we'll present facts. The night before the meeting, I barely sleep. I keep thinking about my father, about the ranch he loved, about the promises Caroline made that turned out to be lies. Brian sleeps in the guest room. We haven't spoken in 2 days. The buyer schedules an emergency meeting, everyone required. Caroline arrives at the meeting, dressed like a CEO. Navy suit, perfect hair, expensive briefcase. She greets the buyer's team warmly, shaking hands, making small talk about traffic and weather. I sit between Catherine and another attorney Catherine brought, a younger woman named Alexis who specializes in fraud. Caroline barely glances at me. Stuart Preston opens the meeting. His voice is polite but firm. We've discovered some inconsistencies between the representations made in the purchase agreement and the actual ownership records. Caroline smiles, confident. I'm sure there's a simple explanation, old records, filing errors, that sort of thing. Perhaps. Stuart opens a folder. Can you explain why several of the warehouse properties aren't held in your family trust? They must be. I've been managing them for years. Managing, yes, but the ownership records show a different entity. Northridge Holdings. Caroline waves her hand dismissively. That's just a subsidiary structure, common in estate planning. And you control Northridge Holdings? Of course. Stuart looks at Catherine. Counsel? Catherine slides documents across the table. Northridge Holdings LLC, managing member, Nora Elizabeth Whitmore. State records filed 2009, never amended. Caroline's smile freezes. That's just on paper. Administrative. I speak for the first time. My voice is quiet but clear. I'm not confused. I'm careful. The buyer asks Caroline, can you explain why you presented a power of attorney allegedly signed by Nora? Caroline tries to laugh it off. The sound is strained, artificial. Standard paperwork. You know how lawyers are. They want every signature in triplicate. Stuart pulls out a copy of the forged power of attorney. This document grants you authority to act on Mrs. Whitmore's behalf. Is that correct? Yes, for convenience, so I can manage family matters without bothering her constantly. And Mrs. Whitmore signed this document? Of course she did. Catherine's voice is calm, professional. We have proof Nora was out of state when this document was allegedly executed. We request the original notary book to verify the circumstances of the signing. The room goes absolutely still. Brian's face changes. Not anger, fear. Real, cold fear. He's looking at his mother like he's seeing her for the first time. Caroline's hand trembles as she reaches for her water glass. Just slightly, but I see it. The notary is a professional, Caroline says. Her voice is still controlled. I'm sure the records are in order. Then producing them shouldn't be a problem, Catherine says. Alexis leans forward. Mrs. Whitmore, do you understand the legal consequences of forging someone's signature on a power of attorney? I didn't forge anything. Caroline's voice rises slightly. This is insulting. Stuart Preston closes his folder. His expression is neutral, but I can see the calculation in his eyes. The risk assessment. If there's forged authorization, we may need to report it to the appropriate authorities. That night, Caroline doesn't call me. She calls my friend Stephanie from church, tells her I'm having a breakdown, that the stress of the sale has made me paranoid and unstable. She calls my sister in Atlanta, spins a story about me sabotaging the family out of spite. She calls anyone who'll listen and paints me as the villain, controlling, ungrateful, mentally unwell. My phone lights up with concerned messages. Are you okay? Your mother-in-law is worried about you. Do you need someone to talk to? Catherine warned me this would happen. When people like Caroline lose control, they try to control the narrative instead. Then Caroline shows up at my house, with Brian. They walk in without knocking, even though I changed the locks yesterday. Brian used his garage code. Caroline stands in my living room, hands clasped in front of her, playing the concerned mother. Sweetheart, let's keep this in the family. No need for lawyers and courts and ugliness. Then stop lying to outsiders, I say. She flinches. I haven't lied about anything. You forged my signature. You claimed ownership of assets you don't own. You tried to sell my father's ranch without my permission. I was protecting. You were stealing. The word hangs in the air. Heavy. True. Caroline's mask cracks. I built this family. I held it together when your precious father-in-law was too weak to lead. I made the hard decisions. I sacrificed. And now you want me to sacrifice too. She pulls out an envelope, slides it across my coffee table. A private settlement, $1 million, cash in exchange for dropping your objection and signing a release. Money for silence. Every part of me wants to spit in her face. Every part of me wants to grab that envelope and throw it at her. Instead, I do the smartest thing I've ever done. I decline. I'm not selling my integrity, I say calmly. Caroline's eyes go wide. Like she can't believe what she's hearing. You're being foolish, she says. $1 million, Nora, for doing nothing, for just stepping aside. No, I turn to Brian. He's standing by the window, arms crossed, looking anywhere but at me. And I'm not your shield anymore, I tell him. Whatever happens next, you chose this. Caroline's voice turns sharp. You'll regret this. Maybe, but I'll regret it with my integrity intact. I call Catherine from my bedroom while Caroline's still in my living room. Tell her to file everything. The next morning, Catherine files for an emergency injunction, requesting the court to prevent any sale of assets until ownership is properly verified. The judge schedules a hearing for Thursday, one day before the planned closing. Caroline sends me one text, "You've destroyed this family." I don't respond. The judge schedules a hearing for Thursday, one day before the planned signing. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, quieter. Caroline tries to charm from the moment she walks in, smiling at the clerk, nodding respectfully to the judge, playing the role of reasonable matriarch, just trying to do right by her family. The judge is a woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Howard. She has the look of someone who's heard every story twice. Catherine presents our case cleanly. Ownership records that don't match Caroline's claims, the forged power of attorney, my father's ranch that was never in any trust. Stuart Preston, the buyer's attorney, confirms they've discovered irregularities that give them concern. Then Caroline takes the stand. She starts well, composed, articulate, explaining how she's managed family assets for years, how complicated estate planning can be, how these are just minor administrative issues. But then Judge Howard asks a simple question. Did you verify your ownership of these assets before soliciting offers to purchase them? Caroline's composure slips. They're family property. I've managed them for years. Of course I have ownership authority. That's not what I asked. Did you verify actual legal title before representing to a buyer that you could sell? The trust holds everything. I'm the trustee. Do you have the trust document with you? Caroline glances at Warren. It's at home, in my safe. So you don't have it here? No, but... And these assets that appear to be held outside the trust. Can you explain that? Caroline's voice gets sharper, condescending. It's complicated estate planning, layered structures. Most people don't understand. I practice probate law, Mrs. Whitmore. Try me. The room goes silent. Caroline stumbles through an explanation that doesn't make sense. The judge's expression doesn't change. The judge requests the notary's testimony regarding the power of attorney. The notary appears the following week. Her name is Brenda Sullivan. She's nervous, twisting her hands in her lap. Judge Howard asks her to explain the circumstances of notarizing the power of attorney. Brenda's voice shakes. Caroline's assistant brought the document to my office, said it had already been signed but they needed it notarized for filing. My stomach flips. The document was already signed when you received it? Judge Howard asks. Yes, ma'am. Did you witness Nora Whitmore sign it? No, ma'am. The assistant said Mrs. Whitmore had signed it earlier at home and they just needed the notary seal for the filing. And you notarized it anyway? Brenda looks miserable. The assistant said it was family paperwork, that it was urgent. I shouldn't have. I know that now. Judge Howard's expression hardens. You notarized a signature you didn't witness. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Caroline's face drains of color. All the careful makeup can't hide the pallor underneath. The judge looks at Caroline. Mrs. Whitmore, you presented this document as valid authority, knowing the notarization was improper. I didn't know. Your assistant brought it, on your behalf. Caroline has no answer. Judge Howard orders the sale paused pending full title review. She refers the notarization, irregularity to the State Bar and the District Attorney's Office for review. Caroline's credibility collapses in real time. Just when it feels like I've won, Catherine gets an alert. She calls me at 7 in the morning. Nora, Brian attempted to transfer funds from several accounts yesterday. Accounts connected to the holding company. My blood runs cold. What? He claimed he was consolidating for the closing, trying to move money into accounts Caroline controls. Can he do that? Not legally. He's not the managing member, but if the transfers had gone through before anyone noticed, it would have been complicated to reverse. Catherine's already in motion. Emergency motion filed. Freeze order requested. Protective accounting to track every dollar. Brian calls me that afternoon. His voice is desperate, pleading. I was trying to fix it. Mom said if we could just get the money into the right accounts, everything would be cleaner. Cleaner for who? For everyone, for the sale. The sale that's based on lies? It doesn't have to be lies if we just... He stops, realizes what he's saying. I feel something inside me finally break. Not in a painful way, in a releasing way. Brian, you were willing to commit fraud for your mother. It's not fraud, it's just family money management. It's my money, money from assets I manage, and you tried to steal it. He's quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now you face consequences. I realize my husband isn't just complicit, he's willing to gamble with my future. That night I sit Brian down at the kitchen table, the same table where we've made so many decisions over 22 years. The table where we planned our lives, paid our bills, dreamed our dreams. The marriage is done, I say. Not yelling, not begging, just stating fact. His face crumples. Nora, please, I'm not asking for discussion. I'm telling you. Caroline storms in without knocking. She must have been waiting outside, listening. You're taking my son's life, she screams. Everything he has, everything he is, you're destroying it. I look at her calmly. No, I'm giving him back the consequences of his choices. She tries to switch tactics, softens her voice, sits down across from me. Please, just sign the documents, let the sale go through. I'll make sure you're taken care of, I promise. Your promises are worthless. Nora, she reaches for my hand. I pull away. Just sign so this can end. I slide a single document across the table, the one Catherine prepared. These are my terms, the only terms I'll accept. Caroline picks it up, starts reading. Her face goes from pale to red. This is absurd. You're demanding. I'm demanding honesty and consequences. Catherine's proposed terms are clean and fair. Assets sold only where ownership is properly verified. Proceeds distributed according to actual legal ownership. Independent trustee appointed for any legitimate trust funds. Brian receives a defined settlement only through proper divorce proceedings. Caroline barred from representing ownership she can't prove. No revenge clauses, no punishment beyond natural consequences. Just reality on paper. Caroline's pride can't swallow it. She refuses. I'll fight this, she says. I'll take it to court. I'll spend every penny fighting you. You don't have every penny, I say quietly. Most of what you think you own, you don't. She storms out, dragging Brian with her. 3 days later, Stuart Preston calls Catherine. Our company is withdrawing from the transaction with Mrs. Caroline Whitmore. The title issues are too significant. The credibility issues are insurmountable. Catherine thanks him, hangs up. Then her phone rings again. It's Stuart. However, we'd be interested in speaking with Mrs. Nora Whitmore about a possible transaction for the assets she actually owns. The buyer walks away from Caroline's deal and calls me directly. 6 weeks later, a sale happens. Not Caroline's version. Not her fantasy $300 million exit. A structured transaction for the assets that are legitimately sellable. The warehouses I actually own through Northridge Holdings, some equipment leases. Clean paperwork. Transparent distribution. The number is smaller, but it's real. And it's mine. Caroline gets nothing from the sale because she owned nothing to sell. She keeps the trust assets that are actually in her trust, far less than she claimed. The exposure happens without me ever having to insult her. She simply meets the wall of reality. Brian signs divorce papers on a Tuesday morning. He loses the fantasy of control he traded his marriage for. Loses his mother's promised kingdom that never existed. He gets a fair settlement from our marital assets. Nothing more, nothing less. And Ira, drive out to the Brazos River Ranch on a Sunday afternoon, the land my father loved. The place he brought me as a child, where he taught me to ride horses and fix fences and understand that land doesn't lie. I touch the fence post near the main gate. The wood is warm from the sun. I feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, not victory, just the quiet knowledge that I protected what was mine, that I didn't let fear or family pressure or the threat of being alone make me small. My final lesson is simple. People who rush you to sign are counting on you to doubt yourself. Don't doubt, read, verify, protect what's yours. The signatures matter, always.